Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to go over the PTS for LRMs Part 2. We're going to load in testing grounds here as we start talking about this. So for this PTS, well, at least for the first one, let's go over what that one was about first. We know how it's changed to the second one here. The first one had some weapon changes that they just wanted to do, and that the main thing was this. With line of fire, we would have the missiles fly directly at the opponent, while if I went outside of line of fire, the missiles took a higher arc to their opponent. Now, the other change that they've added in, and let me just cruise my way back over here as I swap back, they've done some stuff with improving the logic behind what is a direct line of sight and what is not, although there have been some bugs with that, and people have been pointing them out. So if you do find any bugs, point them out. An overhaul of the lock-on system of how it works with the time it takes to get a lock, the improvements to tag and NARC to combine with this new lock-on system and how they have to be applied to it, and then some changes to AMS and its effectiveness. So let me just get myself situated back here, staring at this little catapult. All right. So first things first, LRM arc behavior. They improved the back end for determining what is and what is not a direct line of fire shot. Be sure to report any abnormal behavior. One of the abnormal behaviors is if you get a lock and you try to hold the lock, see right there how that I lost the lock for some reason. Coming from line of sight, out of line of sight, you lose the lock for a split second for some reason. Now, that just needs to be reported so that they can fix that issue. So you can see there, I lose the lock for no good reason. See, that's indirect line of fire because you can see it's the large arc, and this is direct line of fire because it's the low arc. So that's a bug, and hopefully they fix that up. Next thing is the lock-on weapon system overhaul. They've changed it so that it's now affected by your line of sight. If you have line of sight, attempting a weapon lock with direct LOS will see a 20% reduction compared to current. If you don't have line of sight, is now dependent on the range to your target and your maximum sensor range. So that's kind of cool. So for this mech, let's just keep backing off until I lose this thing on sensors. I should have like around 1 kilometer and a bit sensors on this thing because I've taken various pieces of equipment and the maxed sensor tree. Yeah, there we go. So my max sensor range is around 1150, eh? Where is that? There it is. Around 1100-ish. That's my maximum sensor range. So we're going to do these tests at 1 kilometer. So if while I'm looking at the mech, 1 kilometer away with line of sight, and I'm going to get the lock on. 1, 2. Approximately 2 seconds just underneath to get that lock on. Now if I break the lock, and I have the targeting decay on this, so I'll keep its lock after I go behind cover. I'm going to go behind cover, break line of sight. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 seconds approximately. I mean, I'm 4 count. It's about 100% more time it takes to get that lock at that distance. Now, we're going to head further forward here. We'll test it at 500 meters and at 200 meters to show how it changes. So my maximum is around 1 kilometer. Now, if I go to about half my maximum, which should be about this rock right here, right about here, just over 500 meters, direct line of fire will be the exact same amount of time to lock. 1, 2. While if I go behind this little rock here, it's going to be longer. 1, 2, 3. 3 seconds. So that's about 50% more at that point. And if we go even further in, down to say 200 and something meters, the direct line of fire right here, 200 meters, 1, 2, same time, out of line of sight. 1, 2. About the same. I'd say maybe a tiny bit longer out of line of sight, but essentially the same at this range. So what that means is that the further you are away and that you're outside of line of sight, the more time it's going to take you to lock on. Now, this is without any other bonuses and without the opponent having ECM. If they have ECM, that is going to slow down your lock. What they've done alongside this is normally tag and NARC are set up so that they improve some stuff. Tag boosts your weapon lock-on speed. So if you paint it with a tag laser, you would lock on faster. What they're going to do instead is a mech that has its own tag is going to be less useful, because what tag does now, instead of just a blanket increase in lock-on speed, it's going to essentially make a mech that is outside of line of sight act as if it is inside of line of sight. Now, I can't test this by myself because I can't tag something and be outside of line of sight. But it means that when we were back over there and we had the 4-second outside of line of sight lock and the 2-second inside lock, that means that if the target was tagged, it would be 2 seconds as well for outside of line of sight. I think that's great. So we remove really the need for a your own mech to take tag as much. I mean, tag still has the benefit of cutting through ECM and such, but if you were just using it for lock-on speed, it's not as important comparatively to in the new system that they're proposing here compared to the current system. And the thing with NARC is it changes the missile spread. So let's test that. So we have an arc on this thing. We're going to go back to our 500-ish meter rock, and we will test the spread. So if I tuck myself in right here, this little rock here should be just enough to break line of sight. Nope, I got to go for this one over here. Just like that. Perfect. So if I fire on this thing with line of sight, without NARC, I'm going to get a spread that is pretty much entirely on the mech. It's just barely hitting the ground on either side, sort of thing. And if I go outside of line of sight and fire, and I pop back in just so I can see it land, you can see there's a lot more missile landing on either side of the mech. Take a look at that again. Yeah, see, it's hitting the ground all around it. So there's an increase in spread when you are outside of line of sight. So missiles are less effective back then. Now if I need to move forward a little bit here to get within 450 for my NARC launcher, and then throw a NARC out at it, and I NARC it up, we'll go outside of line of sight again, and we'll fire off the missiles, and we'll take a peek at this. This is going to have the same tight spread that the direct line of sight has as well. So that means that an opponent who is NARCed will be getting hit by more accurate missiles. Oh, that was all hit on the top of the right arm. That's awesome. One more volley here, and the NARC has run out, but the bonuses carried through because the NARC, it was launched before the NARC ran out. And then we can try again from direct line of fire, and we can see that it works well, and try from indirect line of fire, and we can see that it's spread all over. Excellent. So I think that's a great change. Further promoting people to get into direct line of fire. The other thing is that they changed AMS. So what they've done, well, you can read through all of this. Essentially what this says is the missile health of the various launchers has been changed. AMS is staying the same, but launchers that are larger, like the LRM 20, that fire a large quantity of missiles at once, are going to have less health per missile. So it means the AMS will get through more of them before they hit. The initial tuning is that the LRM5 launcher will be set as the baseline. How many sort of a AMS gets through how many missiles from an LRM5 sort of thing. Just let's say, for example, you had an LRM5 coming in and it got rid of 2 of the missiles. These are just example numbers. Well, if it gets rid of 2 out of 5, that's like 40%. So, but when you had an LRM20 launch at you currently, you may only get through 2 out of 20, which is only 10%. So currently the AMS is weaker against larger volleys. What they're doing here is making it so that while it still is going to do that, say 2 out of 5 for the LRM5, it's now going to do 40% of the LRM20. So we'll get through like 8 out of the LRM20. Now I have no idea if these numbers are correct or anything like that, but that's the idea, is that make it so that large launchers are more susceptible to AMS defense. So if your opponent is putting out large quantity of missiles, a AMS field will actually be really effective against them, while smaller ones, like 5s and 10s, and ATMs, 3s and 6s and stuff like that, will be more effective at punching through AMS. It kind of makes sense, because you can think about it, if there is 20 targets coming in, and you fire 1 bullet at that target from your AMS, then like you would be shooting at one of them, but if you missed, there would be a chance you would hit the other ones. So each shot has like 20 chances of hitting instead of each shot only having 1 chance of hitting. So that's kind of like that kind of makes sense for shooting into a large cloud of missiles coming in, that it would be more effective shooting into the cloud than it is shooting at a single missile. That kind of makes sense, and also it makes it so that AMS is stronger. And I like that. Buff AMS. If people complain about LRMs and they don't take AMS, they shouldn't complain about it until they take AMS. And then if everyone took AMS, missiles would be way less of a problem and no one would complain about them. Because if everyone took AMS, well, it's the anti-missile system. It's in the name, damn it. It's anti to the missiles. So yes, improve AMS. Also, please, oh my god, please give us I know there's match score bonuses here, but give us a C-bill incentive to run AMS. Give us a missile shot down so many, like 100 C-bills per missile or something like that. I don't know what it would be, but some little quantity of C-bills per missile shot down. Everybody would slap AMS on their mech, because then you could be like, wow, if I just take this piece of equipment and I sacrifice like a single heatsink and half a ton of armor off my leg, I can get an extra couple thousand, sort of thing. An extra 5,000 C-bills per mission. I think more people would take it. But anyway, moving on, they did some other weapon changes. This is just to do a couple things that make the previous changes work better. So like the line of sight spread reverted back to their tighter version, because they're making it so that outside a line of sight has that additional spread. So they don't want to have the additional spread they did the last time and then more additional spread. They want to go, okay, what we wanted the last time is what we want out of line of sight, so that's fine. But now inside a line of sight, let's promote that, so let's make it tighter. I totally get that. What they're doing here for clan LRMs is they're increasing their heat slightly, because LRMs on the clan side shoot as a stream, so it takes a little bit, if I can speak, it takes a little bit of time to fire out the missiles. During that time, you're sinking heat and you're cooling down. So in essence, if we're going to fire missiles that we're going to make 20 heat, and you only had 18 capacity. Theoretically, depending on how much dissipation you had, you could fire that 20 heat when you only had 18 capacity, because you would sink down that extra 2 that you're missing within the time that the missiles were firing. So you're able to be a little bit cooler with the duration of the missiles coming out. And they're just wanting to counteract that a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the important changes here. My thoughts on it are, I absolutely beyond love with the idea that it takes longer to get a lock outside of line of sight. It was something I brought up in my last video about this, where I was standing actually just right up here, and I was talking about how, I think this will probably work. If we're looking at this mech and we see the top right, it's got the damaged indicator of like what parts are damaged, and we target this guy here, and it takes a couple seconds for the information to pop up in the top right there. Boop, now it is. So it took several seconds to pop up, or if I target this guy who's much closer, it takes only a couple seconds to pop up. Very noticeable. I don't even need to do the count for that one. I really enjoy that kind of thing based on how far the person is away. So having this lock-on based on how far they are away, that's great. I love that. But it's only outside a line of sight. I would say that this could be applied within line of sight gently. I'd like to test it. Maybe half of the effect that outside does. So if at close range, this is the same. We get 2-second lock on for inside and outside a line of sight at like 200 meters. At 500 meters, it should be a little bit longer to get a direct line of sight lock. And at 1,000 meters, it should be a little bit longer again. So 2 seconds for each here. Outside of line of sight was 3 for 500 meters. Maybe it's 2.5 for inside. Maybe the outside of line of sight could be a little bit more nerfed then. I don't know. But I get the idea of having it so that if you're a kilometer away, it should take you a while to get a lock, because you're a kilometer away. You're not getting as much of a radar signal from the thing because it's smaller on the horizon. But if you're right beside something, you should get the radar signal instantly because it's right there. It's 200 meters away and it's a goddamn 65-ton mech. Like, it's huge and it's right there. You should lock on instantly at short ranges. But at long ranges, it should be like lock on, crap, now I got it, sort of thing, even with inside of line of sight. But yeah, everything else I fully agree with, and I'd like to see. AMS changes are great. The changes to this lock on time, even though I wish it went a little bit further, are great. It promotes people to get into line of sight. NARC and tag changes are good. The weapon spread while in outside a line of sight so that it's really spread is great. I'm liking it. I'm liking these changes. Now, whether or not they'll actually do anything in terms of increasing the viability of LRMs, yeah, maybe make them a little bit stronger. With the specifically, the only thing that would only really make them stronger at this point, in my opinion, is the this direct fire trajectory. Just so much faster and able to be used in different circumstances. That's probably like the only thing that's really going to be affecting their strength. The other bits are just promotions to get people into line of sight. Like just being like, hey, in line of sight you get better spread and better lock-on time, so don't hide in the back. Like, it'd probably make people a little bit better allies when they have LRMs. But yeah, whatever. I like these changes. Put them in. I'm okay with it. There's a couple things that are like, nitpicky, but whatever. This is better than the alarms we have currently in the game. Anyway, next video coming out is going to be my perfect, ultimate information warfare and LRMs and stuff like that. And that should be out, actually, probably just a few hours after this. So watch out for that one. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and good hunting.